What's going on, guys? I think I'm gonna have a good video for you guys today. It's all about my favorite attack, the stab. Here we'll do one live. Yeah, in this video it's just kind of impromptu. It's not gonna be scripted, but I want to go into stab drags, and I think there's gonna be stuff I could show people who are beginners, and then people who are more intermediate and advanced will also be able to pick things up in this video. So it's gonna be all about stabbing drags and using them effectively in a bunch of different ways in our fights or in our combat, whether you're into TO or duels. So if you enjoy, you guys know what to do. Subscribe. All right, so the stab, in my opinion, it's always the best attack in medieval slasher games, right? Because it's so direct. It's straight to our target. We don't get stuck on enemies and blocked. So it's a great attack. And you guys know I'm a longsword guy, so I use it as my primary attack. And I want to go into some stab drags, all right? So let's talk about dragging. See, normally, this is a normal attack, right? It goes straight to our opponent. But on a stab drag, we want to delay that so it's a little bit harder to counter. So I throw it off to the side and drag it in at the last second, right? So I wait until the weapon releases, go past, and just pull it back. And that was just on a light attack. We can also do that on our heavy attack, which is where they're a little bit more common, right? It's a little bit easier to drag attacks on heavies, right? So we just go past and pull it back. Real easy, all right? But there's a bunch of different ways to do this. So let's start with the most basic way, all right? So for this one, I'm just gonna be using my mouse to do my drag, all right? So I'll do it on a light first, all right? I go past, and I just pull my mouse, put my hand in, right? So I go past and pull it in. But I don't have to use my mouse. I can also use my movement to do this, all right? It's a little weird doing it. It's a little weird doing it when it's not natural in gameplay. All right, so I'm using my A key, right? Or I guess if you're on controller, just move to the left. I'm not using my mouse at all. I'm throwing my strike just a little bit off to his side of the head, and I'm just using my movement to move into him. So there's different ways you can use this. You can either use your footwork or you can use your mouse to do it. And we can use kind of both at the same time too, right? I can just be kind of moving, throw my stab out here, and use a bit of my mouse and my movement to kind of pull it in. All right, there's a bunch of different ways to do this. All right. But let's get into stuff that's a little bit more complex than this, all right? First off, one of my favorite ways to do a stab drag, I call it the reverse pimp slap, all right? I've showed this before, but normally when we throw our drag, right, we throw it to the same side that the strike's coming from. So I'm throwing the strike from my right, so it's going to go on my opponent's left, right? And I pull it out, but I don't have to do that. I can do the reverse pimp smack, which is what I like to call it, a reverse stab drag, right? And I can actually go to my opponent's right. So it looks a little bit weird because it makes the person think you completely missed or you're aiming at someone else, all right? Like imagine there's an enemy right there, right? I pull it over there and I just pull it back, right? I pull it out there and I pull it back, all right? The reverse pimp slap, great way to do your stab drags and really throw people off. Works great in TO, also will throw people off in duels because I don't see many people do it. All right, so let's just show that on a heavy too, right? We're going to throw it over at that helmet, and we're just going to pull it back. We'll use that helmet as our point, right? So again, we're going to throw it over that helmet, and we just pull it back, and we can do it with movement also, right? That last one I did with movement. But now we notice, guys, right? I threw all my stab drags right up here at his head, right? We don't have to do that. One of the best things you can do is look down when you're stabbing, right? It makes it a lot harder to see. I hope that's a little bit of a better view. It makes it harder to see the attack, all right? It kind of disguises your animation a little bit. So we can also do our stab drags, you know, down low, and we can use feints also as we do them. And one of the best things we can do is throw our drags down at the feet. I just did a normal one there, right? So we can throw them down, boom, and pull them in at the feet. Makes it a little bit harder to counter because most times your opponent's going to be looking up at your head when you're looking down here, especially with attack like a stab, right? It's a little bit harder to see when you're looking down here, and it just kind of releases right away at the toes. So you can throw those down there too. And again, we can do that with our reverse also, and it's really tricky, right? Like, look at that. It's really tricky. Look how weird it looks. All right, now we have what I like to call the head tap, all right? We're going to throw the strike up over his head. It's like, oh, whoops, I missed. Sorry, I missed. My bad. Again, oops, I missed. I had bad aim, right? But we're going to go up and then just pull it down at the last second right on top of his head. This is also a little bit tricky because people will think that this is an overhead, so they're going to counter, right, with their overhead, but you hit them with the head tap. All right, so just another trick, another way you could do things. You can even play with this a little bit. Start your drag up here, and pull it down and in, right? Like, you can change your levels to make them look a little bit more jank. Let's see if I can do it in third person. I get confused by third person because I'm never in it. All right, let me show my last stab drag for the day, and I'll probably cut to a dual video I did recently with this because it absolutely I was messing around with look-offs and stuff, and I bamboozled this poor guy. But I want you to watch the stab drag that happens in this duel right here. Certain weapons like the halberd, it works so good when they kind of have a long like kind of wind-up stage, and then they just kind of release really quick. What I like to do is you start your stab looking down at their feet, right? And then as you release, because you remember we're hiding our animation here, right, when we're looking down, but then when we release, we swing it up towards their head, all right? And it just looks kind of janky, and it catches a lot of people off guard because they're not knowing what they're looking at, right? So it'll work a little bit with the Messer. Works great with the poleaxe. Works great with the halberd. You can pull it off with a bunch of weapons. Probably not going to work too good with like a one-handed mace or something, but you can play around with this a little bit. All right, and here we're releasing it at the feet and just pulling it up. Right, and you can do that. That was a little heavy, so you can do that on lights too, right? That was a bad one. Right, you can do that on lights too, and it's just another way to throw some jank into your game. And this is stuff that you probably don't need in a TO lobby if you're just playing normal 64. But if you want to improve your game, it's just other things you can add to your technique or your gameplay to throw people off. And if you want to get in the comp events, this is stuff you can throw in there. And this stuff, it's not things that you do on every strike, right? This should be something. It's a tool in your toolbox. It's not your main techniques, right? This shouldn't be you're throwing this every stab. This is stuff that you throw in to kind of throw people off here and there, or when someone has passed the test where you're like, okay, they've blocked a few of my feints or my regular drags. Let me throw some jank at them. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this impromptu video again in the training grounds. This is my little secret. I like to come into the offline tutorial and run past it all and fight this guy right here. But yeah, if you enjoyed it, let me know, and I'll do more of these. If you got any questions of stuff you'd like me to go over, let me know in the comments too. Champ out.